Welcome back to another edition of our Health, Hope, and Happiness broadcast brought to you by Stifel. On today's segment of Ask Dr. Steve, CNA welcomes back Dr. Steve Grave, owner of Mindurance, an organization for one-on-one online mental health coaching to help our coaches and athletes manage stress and enhance their performance. So during the summer, hey, athletes are on different schedules just like everybody else. Perhaps staying up later, sleeping in, practices again are getting ready to start. What is the best way for an athlete to mentally prepare themselves for the rigorous schedule ahead? And you kind of mentioned it a little bit with the coaches, how you prepped yourself, but do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, and you bring up a great point. So even if you're a coach listening to this athlete section or the parent section, I think there's going to be different tidbits that come up from each one. So listen to them all, right? And enjoy all the techniques and strategies that come from it. So yes, I think that there is a very special combination between the physical and the mental, and the mental and the physical. So by preparing yourself physically during the course of the summer and not procrastinating on the summer conditioning workouts and such, by being ready, you're going to build more confidence. And if you're more confident, then you can go into the preseason ready to actually learn versus being concerned about the physical rigors that are associated with it. And so giving yourself the time and space to actually prepare physically during the summer is critical. I think also mentally, as you get closer, maybe the week before, similar as I was talking about with the coaches, try not to go from like summer job, working 20 hours a week, going on vacation with friends, staying up and all these things. And then the practice starts the next day and you cut that all off on a Sunday and Monday starts preseason camp. Give yourself at least the weekend before, but certainly the full week before, try to start going to bed 10 minutes earlier each night. Try to wake up 10 minutes earlier each day. And so rather than, oh my gosh, I typically have gone to bed at 2 a.m. and now I have to wake up at 6 and go to 2-a-days, you can start that process more deliberately. So then you're more mentally and physically ready to go come preseason practice starting.
And obviously,
yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
No, obviously that also translates into your winter and spring sports as well. Like, yes, you're already in school, but you don't want to turn on that switch, as you said, like the day before wrestling practice or basketball practice and be like, oh, well, I'm going to come in and run today and I'm not prepared. So
Absolutely. And again, we talk a lot about coaches and their intentionality, but also for the student athlete, what goals do you have from this preseason? What goals do you have for the season? Whether that's effort, whether that's having fun with your teammates, what are you hoping to get out of that, and connecting to that before the preseason starts can serve as a nice reminder to you when it's challenging, when it's hard, to remind yourself, this is why I'm doing this. This is why it's important to me. And again, there's a lot of other kind of mental tips to help with the physical rigor to help deal with the challenge a bit more effectively too, that I encourage student athletes to do. Not only are they physically ready for the challenges, but they have some mental tools available to them to help navigate the demand of physical practice.
yeah, so we touched on it earlier. Again, you've got your freshman athletes coming in, they're transfer, they're kind of moving up from the middle school level or maybe a club level, depending on what that sport is. Give some advice to them to how they can better prepare themselves as well. And obviously, every sport's different. So golf would be different than football or cross country or volleyball or whatever the case may be.
Absolutely. And it's going to vary at different schools too. I mean, you have a really big school and freshmen have their own team, right? And they're working out together. You don't have to worry about sophomore and juniors, seniors. But varies by school, varies by sport. Absolutely. But I think the big thing, and really regardless of any, whether you're a freshman or you're just new to the sport, you're trying it out, embrace the learning curve. Okay? Again, this is not a a mindfulness coloring book that you're engaging in. You're engaging in sport, and sport, for the most part, is hard. And if it's not physically demanding, it's mentally demanding. It is sport by nature is a demanding activity. And that's why we participate, or many people choose to participate in it, because it is a demanding. So embrace that learning curve. All right. Be patient with yourself, knowing it's going to take time to learn the new system, learn the new rules of the game, learn from the new coach, et cetera, et cetera. Seek guidance, whether that's watching YouTube videos, or whether that's asking coaches, older teammates, or teammates your same age that are kind of going through it. Communicate, learn from each other, seek support. I think relationship building is also very critical as well. When we hard things, right? The misery loves company type of concept. So if you feel connected, even if it's just one other person on the team, it helps you to be able to endure the challenges associated with the sport. I remember at Ohio State, I was walking, I was just getting beat up basically every day. And every day between the walk from the Woody Hayes Athletic Facility over to the Fawcett Center where we would stay the night, I walked with this other athlete, and we would essentially just kind of complain about the day and like, why are we doing this? What's going on? Like, my gosh, did you get to play at all? No, neither did I. And looking back, it probably wasn't the best mental strategy to keep me positive and going. But on the other hand, it did help me feel like, hey, we're in this together. And there was other individuals that kind of felt similarly. So we could kind of bond around the challenge of this, which then allowed us to show up and actually do the rules that were expected of us on the team. So those relationships can really be helpful. And then again, just kind of this knowledge of embracing the learning curve, but like building your strengths, knowing that by doing these hard things, there's good things that are going to come from it. So those would just be some thoughts that I have regarding what a freshman can get from it and how they can approach the preseason.
So when sluggishness starts to set in, which we mentioned earlier, more mistakes will happen. That's just natural with anything. How does an athlete overcome that sluggishness to stay mentally sharp?
Yeah. So again, this goes back to the summer. So you've made the decision that you want to participate in this sport come fall or come spring or come winter. Prepare for it, because but the more physically prepared you are going into this thing, then the less likely you will get sluggish, right? Or if you do get sluggish, you're going to have the mental capacity to know that you still have some in the tank. So again, kind of emphasizing that. But I think creating a routine can be helpful. Now we're asking a lot of student athletes here, but this isn't anything that's like mind blowing. But coming up with your first aid for when you're sluggish, is it a power phrase? Is it your go-to nutrition? Is it a Snickers or a Gatorade? Something that hydrates you quickly or fills you up with carbs, whatever your physical requirements are. But winging it does nobody any good. I think understanding, based on previous experience, if you have some and if you don't, look to best practices. But what can I do when X, Y, or Z? And, competition, sport, doing hard things is less about doing the hard things. It's coming up with a plan of attack, of problem solving in order to meet the demands. And if you're able to come up with effective problem solving skills to meet various demands, I'm sluggish. This is the thing. I forget the play. This is how I cope with that. A play just went bad, or I failed in a moment. This is how I respond to it. By thinking through these different situations and having specific problem solving tactics for each one, that's going to be very, very important. And just doing your best to stay engaged, right? So you have kind of this mental and physical plan that's available to you, but also just continuing to remind yourself, this is why I do this. Leaning on a friend, embracing the challenge. These other things that we've talked about before can also come in handy when we're feeling a little less sharp. Getting yourself together, pumping yourself up, doing a quick 2-minute, jumping up and down, doing jumping jacks. These types of things can be very effective. But again, you want to identify that those are the things that you want to do beforehand, rather than trying to wing it.
So this question obviously is still going to apply to fall sports, but it can easily break into winter break and spring break, but particularly mid-August around here, school usually begins to start. So the athlete is starting to transition from your morning workouts to afternoon workouts, and you now have school in the early part of the day. And so what advice would you give athletes as they start to make that transition from morning practices to now we have school and then we have afternoon practices?
Yes. So first and foremost, we want to normalize that it can be challenging. Okay. You got a lot on your plate. It's demanding physically and mentally, and that's okay. You're not the only one going through it. So normalizing and validating. All right. That's one. Second piece is rest. Get your sleep, recharge your hydration needs, refuel your whole being. If we don't take care of those things, we're not going to be able to produce or perform at all, right? So it's paramount that you be mindful of your sleep, be mindful of your nutrition, be mindful of your hydration. So that is critical, baseline stuff. Now, assuming that you got all that going on, then we're talking things like prioritizing time management, based on history. What classes do you think you're going to need to focus on versus what classes do you think you can kind of slack off in? When do you want to study for certain things? When's the good time for your study hall? Those types of prioritizing time management pieces are going to become important as well. Communication with coaches. If you see that you're taking some AP classes, you're involved in some other extracurricular activities, and then you still have this sport thing, might be good to just let coaches know, hey, I am fully committed to what we're doing here athletically. I also have some other things that are going on. So just keeping people in the loop, coaches as well as parents, I think could be very critical as well. So those would be some of the key essential ingredients to smoothen the transition from summer to preseason and then into school.
All right. Is there anything else on the athletic side you would like to add that we did not cover?
From an athlete perspective, just again, it's hard. Okay, these are challenging things. But you have support that's available to you. You have support that's available to you, and that's great. And you also need to take ownership of some of this stuff too. If this is a sport that you want to participate in and it comes with demands and challenges, part of it is on you to identify or lean on others to help you identify a plan of attack to meet the demands associated with doing the things that you want to do. Okay, it's not your parents' responsibility to make the sport easy. It's not your coach's responsibility to make the sport easy, right? You're signing up for this thing that is challenging. So part of it is on you to be able to manage it effectively by using tips, tactics, strategies, taking care of yourselves, reaching out to support to help with that, listening to these podcasts, taking some initiative and ownership of your own management.